about 1:45 p.m., police responded to a 911 call for help at the Bushwick Avenue and Aberdeen Street train station at the L line. Upon arrival, they came upon two juvenile males, both 14 years old. Both were found underneath a northbound L train, which is Manhattan bound. Both of them had serious trauma to their bodies, and tragically, one was pronounced deceased on scene. The other was removed to Cohen's Children's Hospital, where he's in very serious condition with serious trauma to his body. Our preliminary investigation reveals that both of these males entered the train station and began subway surfing at the Broadway Junction stop. While on top of the train between the Broadway Junction and this stop, the Bushwick Avenue Aberdeen stop, the train goes from above ground into a tunnel. It was as the train was entering the tunnel that we believe they made contact, knocking them off the top of the train and causing the injuries and death. This incident is tragic on so many levels, and our hearts and our prayers go out to the family of the deceased 14-year-old. We urge anyone, even thinking of subway surfing, don't do it. It is extremely dangerous and deadly, and the attention and the clout that you seek is just not worth it. The deadly consequences and the life-altering effects affect so many. I'll now hand it off to Mayor Adams.
Thank you so much, Chief. When you think about this, you have to automatically think about one's own children. This is a tragic life that's lost, and even the young man that's in the hospital now, his life will never be the same. The family has lost a child, and the young man is in critical condition. The chief stated it correctly. Subway surfing kills. It kills. Our young people are spending far too many hours each day on social media and other related platforms. If you go online right now and put New York City subway surfing, you will see some of our young people are watching 39 million views. They are being exposed to dangerous and disturbing, violent, and radicalizing content, including viral videos that make young people to try to do dangerous things, like subway surfing and stealing cars, consequences of which can be life-altering. Last month, I joined Norma Nazario, a mother who lost her son, Zachary, to subway surfing. He wanted to be a Marine. He wanted to live out his life in fullness, but we lost him prematurely. His mom and I did a PSA of this dangerous trend. Zachary was already a talented athlete and music fan, and he had his full life in front of him, and he lost it on top of a subway in this system. But as a result of a viral social media trend, we're losing far too many young people to this type of dangerous incident. And today we lost another child. The consequences of social media and other addictive online content are tragic and real. And those who host these platforms and benefit financially and make profit off of public safety and death must be held responsible. I am calling today for TikTok to ban these videos immediately and take them down. From 2021 to 2022, there was a 366% increase in people riding outside the subway. How many more sons and daughters do we need to lose before action is taken? Our hearts break for this family. We say to Brian Crespo Catino, who attended school in Ridgewood, Queens, 14-year-old child. He He was not in school today. He was on top of the train. And when you think about it, young Wenderson Garcia, a junior high school student, age 14, graduate today. Yesterday he graduated. Instead of attending and celebrating the graduation, we're mourning the life termination of a friend. This is something that could be avoidable. All young children do dumb things at a young age. But when I was a child, my dumb thing remained on the block. 3 people may know about it. Now 3 million people are knowing about the juvenile mischief of young people. Social media must become socially responsible and end the posting of dangerous videos of this magnitude. When you think about it, in 2023 alone, 6 total incidents, 2 DOAs. 2022, we have 4 incidents with 1 DOA. Train surfing for clout is too dangerous and too painful for the families. Trust me, every family member that lost a loved one to train surfing is reliving the horror today when another child was lost. We can do better, and social media must play a role in addressing this issue. I'm going to now turn it over to the representative from the MTA.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I first want to thank the mayor for his personal leadership.
The best mayor we ever had.
I want to thank the mayor for his personal leadership. I saw the PSA. It was powerful that he reported a few weeks back, imploring young people in New York not to be doing this activity. I also want to thank the chief in transit. What was also not discussed is they are grabbing kids off these trains, bringing them to their families and imploring them to talk to their kids. So for every one of these tragedies we've seen over the last few months, there are dozens that have been prevented because of NYPD. Look, my message is clear. As president of New York City Transit, to have to come and again discuss an innocent life being taken because of a dumb mistake, it's insensate. If you are a teenager and you are engaged in this activity, I am looking at you and imploring you to find something else to do. If you have a friend who you know is engaged in an activity, be brave and talk to them about why this is wrong. And if you are a parent and you think your child is engaged in subway surfing, riding between cars, please tell them it is not a game. Lives are lost. Lives are lost. With that.
Thank you. And I think before we answer questions, I think it's imperative, as the president just stated, our proactive approach to addressing this. We're not sitting on our hands waiting for an incident to happen. So Chief, can you give an update on some of the proactive stuff that we're doing?
We are doing a lot of proactive work in relation to subway surfing, education. We spoke about this multiple times in the past. We spoke that our educators should be speaking to these children about the dangers, parents and friends about the dangers. And again, this is avoidable. These incidents like this are absolutely avoidable. These kids are not thinking about the tragic consequences that can happen, that do happen, unfortunately. All they're thinking about at the time is about clout and attention. But so far for this year, in relation to enforcement actions, and we're doing outreach also. So far for the first 5+ months of the year, there's been 55 enforcement actions in relation to subway surfing. That's 55 incidents where New York City Transit cops observed, stopped, and took an enforcement action against an individual. The overwhelming majority of these subway surfers are juveniles. They're young. They're 12 years old, 13 years old. Today you saw 2 14-year-olds. It's very rare that we see adults subway surfing. We went further because we recognize the dangers and the real seriousness about this and how this is avoidable. And what we did was the Transit Bureau, working with DOE, our intelligence, our Patrol Service Bureau, we identified and compiled a list of dozens of known subway surfers. How did we come up with their names? From prior enforcement actions and from social media postings. And, you know, we're sitting here, it's the third week of June. What I'm gonna tell you, we did as recently as a week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we identified these names and we went out collectively to speak to the parents of these kids. A, to let them know and assure that they're aware that their child is a subway surfer, and also to explain to them the dangers surrounding it and the tragic consequences that people are suffering. And out of upwards of around 70 people identified, we've had some very, very positive interactions and some very, very positive feedback. The two individuals today, the 14-year-olds, were not part of that list. We have had no prior police contact with them. But what I can say, that outreach effort, so there's an enforcement component and there's an outreach effort. You know, the outreach effort started and we're gonna continue doing that outreach. Again, I'm gonna end it with this. This is so avoidable. I can't imagine how many lives were changed for the worse because of this tragic day. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions now. Folks.
So what is the advice to both the conductor and passenger? Do people pull the emergency brake? Do they, what?
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the advice is to, there's an intercom, you know, there's an emergency intercom. They can contact the conductor. Again, thanks to the mayor and the chief's leadership. We have police throughout the system all the time on platforms. So, but folks are encouraged to get an MTA employee, or if they see a police officer, to let them know immediately. If there's actual active, pulling the emergency cord would be an act of last resort. I mean, I was out 2 days ago on the 4, saw 2 kids riding in between cars, 12 to 13-year-olds, and opened the door and said, you know, what the hell are you doing, right? So, look, I mean, if you're a passenger on a train and you see kids about to maybe make a bad decision, you know, maybe having a conversation with them too if you're comfortable. But clearly you need to report it to MTA employees or NYPD to take action.
Other questions? Mayor Adams, have you considered the possibility of any physical barrier? Is there anything you can do physically to dissuade or stop kids subway surfing?
Well, when you looked at this incident in particular, the small space between the headroom and the train was extremely small. And from the outdoor locations, we're going to examine whatever we possibly can. But there's so many ways to get on top of a train. You know, particularly the 7 line, which is a known location for subway surfing. It's an outdoor station. So it's just really education is the best way to turn this around. And parents' engagement. Parents must check their child's social media page. If you see your child posting photos on your social media of subway surfing, you need to engage in a real conversation. One of the young men, he was not in school. It's going to take a holistic approach, not only law enforcement, but education, outreach, and really parent involvement.
Mr. Mayor, were these 2 teams?
Are they posting on social media?
At this time, we don't, that's still to be determined, but historically what we've seen, it's either posted live or it's videoed and then posted. But to answer your question in relation to them, to be determined.
Good, Steve.
Mr. Mayor, for the police officers that are in the subway system, we hear about the deployments there all the time. We know which stations this tends to happen at. Is there any message to the NYPD about where they should be patrolling, where they should have an eye out, as far as stopping this from happening before?
So, yeah, so the mayor mentioned that 7 line a minute or 2 ago. There are locations throughout the city that historically attract these kids to subway surf. Why does it attract them? They're above ground and the scenery. So that 7 line in the vicinity of Citi Field, and then I can take you to the J line with that Williamsburg Bridge going over Manhattan. So that's usually where the bulk of the subway surfing is. you know, we do realize this is not one of those lines, and we do have some outliers. And when I spoke about the enforcement, that's where the enforcement primarily is, and that's where our presence is. But let me say this. We don't want to do this for the enforcement. This is not about enforcement. This is about stopping these kids from risking their lives, maiming themselves. And that's why we went a step further, because it's not about enforcement numbers. It's about saving their lives, and that's why we're identifying kids on a daily basis, and we're doing home visits, speaking to their parents, explaining to them what their kids are doing when they're not home. And if they could reach something in their minds and stop it, well, that's exactly what we're looking to do.
Thanks.
And we don't want to lose what is the motivating factor. The motivating factor is playing in the psyches of the likes and the views on social media. If you would go and look at some of these surfing and how each person is trying to outdo the other, jumping from one train to the next, running on top of the train, and just hoping to get as many hits as possible. There's a direct correlation between the continuation of this action and what is happening on social media. Social media stop posting this, we will see a drastic response, in our opinion.
Mayor Adams, you just mentioned that you want to call on TikTok to try to ban these videos. How exactly do you plan on leading that effort with the
We have been engaged with the social media companies around stealing of Kias and Hyundais, the TikTok challenge. We have been engaged with them, and we want to get them in the room around the table and talk about how do we become more socially responsible. We've already started those talks. We want to use an incident like this to show how this is not socially responsible to continue to put up dangerous items on your platform that's motivating this dangerous behavior.
Last question over here.
Yeah, can you explain the timeline of when these teens got on the train, what stop they were at, and approximately?
So to answer your question very quickly, to be determined. We believe preliminarily they entered at the Broadway Junction stop. The tunnel they went in, where we believe the impact occurred, is the next stop, before the next stop in close proximity. I don't want to narrow it down 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet away. What their motive, where they were going to go, unknown at this time, but yeah, Broadway Junction to where it ended. That's what we believe right now, and as I mentioned before, this is going to be an investigation. All of this is going to be determined, okay? All will be determined, and once we determine everything, we'll get it out.
Thanks, everybody.